Call of Duty World War II reintroduced us to a fan favorite that has been a long time part of the Call of Duty franchise, but the Chicago typewriter, the Annihilator, the trench boom, the chopper, or what you may know it as, the Thompson, does differ in some ways compared to the previous variations that we've seen in the Call of Duty franchise. So today, I want to take a look at the M1928 in Call of Duty World War II and see how it stacks up against the classic Thompson in this week's episode of Then vs. Now. So as with last week's episode, and as per the specifications we laid out in that first episode, we'll be taking a look at a statistical breakdown initially of what we saw in World War II's M1928 and comparing it to that of the World at War Thompson, and then giving you guys some interesting notes that I picked up on here from using both as of recent times. So that said, hopefully you guys enjoy, but let's jump right into the comparison. Now, firstly, let's start out with the classic, because this is one that you guys may very well remember, or it's possible that it slips your mind at the moment. But let's start out with the biggest property that everybody wants to know about, that being the damage. How many shots am I going to need to take my enemy down? Well, the damage in the World at War Thompson variation was a range of 40 to 20 depending on how close or how far you were away from your target. Other things to consider also include different multipliers, in which it's a 1.4 multiplier for the head and a 1 everywhere else on the body. So whether or not you end up using those headshots to your advantage, that's something that I guess is up to you, but you'd end up getting at your closest point 40 damage per shot. So a 3-shot kill, assuming it's all on the body. Now the rate of fire was 750 RPM, which stacks up pretty nicely, still does not compare to the PPSH, and the ammunition was available in 20-round stick magazines as per the standard of the Thompson, or a 40-round round drum magazine. Recoil for the Thompson was listed as moderate, and you could totally feel where it had some pull and some drag, but was still rather easy to control. Now as for full reload speeds, it was 2.7 seconds with a stick magazine and a 3.9 second reload with a round drum. So that said and out of the way, how does this now look comparing it to the most recent version of the M1928 in Call of Duty World War II? So the damage, though we don't have any of these numbers statistically as per the game code, it did seem relative to that 40 to 20 damage drop off, but that's estimated though. Now the rate of fire, if I did my calculations right from my live testing, seemed to be right around the 857 RPM mark. That's something that it does stack up a little bit closer towards the best rate of fire that we've seen, and it certainly is better than that of the World at War counterparts. Now, as for the ammunition, this is once again where it stacks up and competes and even excels against that of its World at War counterparts. This starts out with a 30-round stick magazine, but can be upgraded to a 45-round round drum magazine. Now the recoil once again is moderate, but as for the reload, this is where it differs again and kind of beats out its World at War counterpart once again. The full reload is a 1.5 second to quick swap, which means that you'll end up having your ammunition refilled, but you can YY to negate the rest of the animation. But if you end up having it reload until the rusting animation, it's about a 2.5 second reload time. So as you can see, some of these different statistics outclasses the World at War variation of the Thompson in World War II. So definitely nice to see it excel a little bit here over time, but aside from any immediate statistical differences, there are a couple things you might notice. One thing being that the fire audio is actually drastically different. We saw this with the M1 Garand last week, and sticking true to those similar changes, this is something where the fire audio is not as twangy, but has more depth and bass to each individual shot. Now, of course, it blends a little more together, seeing that the fire rates is almost that of double of the M1 Garand, but each individual shot has that extra bass, depth, and resonance to it that really creates a more visceral effect in game. Now, one thing that I think is kind of interesting a little bit and funny enough about it is that the Thompson never really is mentioned what variation of the M1928 it is in World at War and other World War II titles in the Call of Duty franchise, save for Call of Duty 3, in which it does specify that it is an M1A1 and not an M1928. However, with World War II designating that specific M1928 variant, it opens itself up to a little bit of a design quirk, because the actual model, as mentioned in yesterday's quirk video, is not the actual model for the M1928. Instead, it's the model for the M1928A1. If it were simply just the M1928, it would be the one that we've seen in Revelations with the frontal grip hanging off the barrel and so on and so forth. Additionally, one interesting little fun fact is that the round drum magazine with the actual model used, that being the M1A1 variation of the Thompson, in World War II, if we used that specific model and we kept it realistic to what it was, the round drum would not actually fit in and would only be able to use a stick magazine with that specified model. But we're not really too far into the intricacies here of this, but I always found that to be something that is a little bit funny and quirky about the weapon itself. But as for the straight up comparison between the World at War variation and the Call of Duty World War II variation, again, I think that we can see a clear divide as to the progression of the weapon itself over time, but it is one that nostalgia and iconic pieces may still hold the World at War variation up on a little bit of a pedestal to some people, but it definitely looks like a sledgehammer sought to make the weapon a little bit more viable and a little bit more of a powerhouse within World War II. So that's going to conclude our then versus now for this week with the Thompson, or in this case, the M1928 in Call of Duty World War II. So that said, hopefully you did enjoy. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. Firstly, what weapon would you guys like to see for the next episode coming next week of then versus now? And also, what are your thoughts on the comparison between World at War and Call of Duty World War II's Thompson, or the M1928 in World War II specific case? Love to hear your thoughts down there in the comment section down below, but hopefully you guys enjoyed, and if you guys did, make sure you drop a like down below, and of course, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe to stay up to date with everything we have here regarding Call of Duty World War II. The beta is now over, but we are still going to be killing it with Call of Duty World War II content leading up until the full launch, and then of course, afterwards, we're going to keep hammering it down and giving you guys the best that we possibly can. So if any of that interests you, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a beat. And finally, if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, that is the best place to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically live on Twitter, so if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, link is down there in the description below. But all that said and out of the way, hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.